Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to another weekly reading wrap-up. Why yes, I am wearing the same shirt and the same hairstyle as I was yesterday when I was filming it. It's just a coincidence. So I had an excellent reading week. I think everything that I finished this week I really thoroughly enjoyed. So let's see how quickly I can go through all of these. Firstly, I did finally sit down and read Atlas Alone by Newman, and as I kind of predicted, as soon as I finally cracked it open, I was just consumed and I read it in like one big go. And I really loved this one. It's kind of up there with the first two books in the series for me. So I've actually already filmed a review video on this and that will be up soon. It's probably very rambly. It's hard to talk about this book because it does actually spoil at least one of the previous books. It's not a standalone or like self-contained like the previous stories are, so have to kind of dance around that while talking about the things that I want to talk about, but more on this one is coming soon. After that, I read a couple of comics that I really enjoyed. I continued reading Giant Days with the 10th volume. This is written by Allison and the artwork is by Max Sarin. I love this comic series and I have to say at this point, 10 volumes in, that it is the most consistently good series that I have ever read, probably. I mean, I really enjoy some other things like The Wicked and the Divine and Lumberjanes, but those have had some real ups and downs for me. Giant Days hasn't. It has just been so much fun. And I've talked about this series a lot in the past. I feel like I'm a broken record now because I don't have that much new to say about it, but it is a slice of life contemporary story about three young women in university in England and what they get up to, the trials and travails of college life, basically. And despite the fact that it resembles my university experience not a single bit, I still find tons of it really relatable for some reason. I love it. And in this one, there's the conclusion of the kind of dramatic moment that Daisy had with her grandmother. I was very happy that that was concluded quickly because it was like the cliffhanger for the previous volume, and I was really nervous about it. But overall, loved it. I don't usually want to draw attention to my appearance, but I'm wearing a new lipstick color and I'm seriously concerned it might be too dark. But things always look weird in the viewfinder when I'm filming. It looks different when I actually edit it. But I keep looking at myself because I like, oh my god, my lips look weird. Anyway, after that, I read a really popular manga, at least here on BookTube. All of my friends seem to be reading this and loving it, and it is My Brother's Husband Volume 1 by Gengoroh Tagame. This is a modern contemporary manga about a Japanese man whose twin brother came out as gay and then moved to Canada, and they've been estranged. They haven't had any contact in like 10 years. And then his brother dies, and then this big burly Canadian man shows up on his doorstep in Japan and says, "Hey, I'm your brother's husband." And he's visiting Japan. He wants to meet his husband's family and go to the places where his husband had grown up and spent time as a child. And so it's I think it's an exploration of how homosexuality is viewed and accepted or not accepted in Japan through this particular situation, a man whose twin brother was gay but he's not, and this man is also basically a single parent. He's raising his daughter alone, and his daughter is so in love with her newly found Canadian uncle, but she is so young, she doesn't necessarily understand the situation and the way that outsiders view this and the way it reflects on them and such. So it was really good. The only thing that stopped me from giving this 5 stars is it was a little bit uncomfortable for me in some ways, the art style, the depiction of the two main men, I guess. I think that Gengoroh Tagame has drawn a lot of very erotic gay art in the past, and the way that he draws these two men on the cover, I just felt like some parts of it were more sexualized than was necessary, especially because I think this manga or graphic novel is kind of billed as all ages. There is the child at the heart of the story who interacts with these people, and there were just a couple of panels in this where I went, okay, why are we looking at your underwear like that? Aside from that, I really enjoyed it. The nonfiction book that I finished this past week is Hacking the Code of Life: How Gene Editing Will Rewrite Our Futures by Nessa, Carey. I love reading about genetics, and I've been very interested in the discussions around CRISPR technology, which is a new way discovered to very quickly and cheaply edit genes and like permanently edit genes. It is revolutionizing science and genetics. And it's amazing, but also kind of scary in its implications, because for the first time ever, we humans can actually edit our genes, and there's this potential for editing our children's and grandchildren's and so on, their genomes as well. And there's so many ethical questions that arise from that. This is Nessa Carey's kind of summary of the situation. She describes how gene editing was done before, and then why CRISPR, when it appeared, was so amazing. And then she also touches on some of the most recent events in research and in science that have had outcomes because of this, especially some cases in like China and South Korea where people have used this technology, even though the scientific community as a whole is saying, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So yeah, I thought this was a great summary of the situation. It is very well written for a lay audience. It's not technical. It's not nearly as technical as her previous books have been. So it's a great primer to pick up if you're interested in the topic, but don't want to get into the nitty-gritty details. And it's very short as well. You could practically read it in one sitting if you wanted to. I'm at the point where I want the details, I want the technical stuff, I want the science, I want more information, I wanted more case studies, more examples of like research papers and things, what's been coming out in journals, and that wasn't in here. That's kind of what I thought I would get based on Carey's previous books, but this is really not that. If you want an even deeper dive into gene editing and CRISPR in particular, Jennifer Doudna's book, A Crack in Creation, is the one I would absolutely recommend. It is almost the same material as this book, but expanded and from the point of view of the primary researchers who are claiming credit for the discovery or the development of CRISPR. And it also touches on some of those ethical things, but this book comes out a couple of years later when we've already seen some of the things that the researchers predicted would be problematic just a few years ago. So all in all, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really need to go find some more books on genetics to read, because sometimes I go a long time without reading about it, and then I do pick up a book about it and I'm like, this is my happy place. I need more of this. Maybe I should go and like reread The Gene or something while I'm just waiting for more things to come out. And the last thing that I have to talk about this week is Hex Arcade Stories by Yoon Lee. This just came out a couple days ago. I've already read it. I'm very proud. I've been doing a good job at reading things as soon as I get them in the past couple of months. But this short story collection is set in the same universe as the Machineries of Empire series that began with Nine Fox Gambit. Almost all of the stories focus on Jadao at certain points in his life. It's kind of arranged chronologically, so the first stories are about him as a child or before he was born, and then up through his middle years, and then into the timeline that the novels are set in. A couple of the stories are also about Cheris. So the first half or so is mainly stuff that has been printed elsewhere, and then the last like third or a quarter of the book is a newly published novella that is basically a sequel to Revenant Gun, the last book in the trilogy. And I was so happy when I realized that was a novella. I thought it would be a short story. So a significant chunk of this collection is brand new, despite the fact that a bunch of like the small flash fiction pieces have been published elsewhere. So there was a lot more in this that was new to me than I expected. I was very happy about that. The ones that I liked the most were the longer pieces. Extracurricular Activities is one I know a lot of people have read because that was nominated for a Hugo Award last year or the year before. The Battle of Candle Arc was also really good. And then the brand new novella is called Glass Cannon, and I also really liked that, especially the way that it ended. My only complaint about this, I feel like I'm saying a lot in this video, like my only complaint is, but yeah, the only thing that was missing from this collection was more Mikades. It was very focused on Jadao, and I like Jadao. I find him to be a very fascinating, conflicting, controversial character, but Mikades is my absolute favorite character from this world. I'm kind of take it or leave it on Cheris. I enjoy her mainly when she's interacting with Jadao, and I enjoy the hijinks that Jadao got up to when he was actually alive before things got super serious with the Hexarchate or whatever it was called before. But Mikades is so seriously messed up. He's the most entertaining and charismatic character in the series for me, and there was almost none of him. He really just shows up at the end of the new novella, and I finished that, and all I can think is that we really need a novel set after the events of the trilogy that's from Mikades's viewpoint as things fall apart and new wars start, because just the way that novella ended, it was, yeah. Poor Mikades. He'll pull through though. So if I haven't forgotten anything, because I feel like I kind of have, that is everything that I finished this week, and like I said before, it was a really good reading week. I hope the next one is just as good. I need to sit down and finish reading He, She, and It by Marge Piercy. It's the very last book I need to read for my Clark Award project, and I'm really dragging my heels on it. I know it's because I'm making myself read this book now when I don't feel like it, but if I have to be honest, I'm not sure I'll ever feel like reading this book, so better now rather than later so I can wrap up that project. But that is my one and only goal for this next week, is to finish that book, and then I will be free to read whatever I want after that in July. And also, the Newts are coming up. The second round of the Magical Readathon is in August, and the prompts, the book prompts for it were just announced this morning when I was filming, and I'm already planning my TBR. Like, it's a month away and I'm already making picks. But yeah. Anyway, let me know if you've read any of these books that I've talked about. Leave me some comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back to talk to you again very soon. And until then, bye.